Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm very excited to share with you about one of my favorite tools in Microsoft Excel, that is the pivot table. I have personally used the pivot table to analyze, summarize, and report very large data sets meaningfully in practically the blink of an eye. So let's dive right in and let me show you how you can set up a pivot table. All right, so over here, I'm using this report. Let me acquaint you with the data in this report. On the left here, I've got the products, all the product codes, and these are the salespersons who are selling these products, and they are operating or selling these products in the or have sold these products in the various regions in the world. And these are their sales figures for each quarter, and this has been total for the year. So their sales from quarter one all the way to quarter four. Before you dive in to create your pivot table, there are a few things that you have to check in your source data so that you avoid problems later on. So the first thing and the most obvious is to ensure that there are no empty columns or rows in your source data. So if you look at column H, I've done this intentionally. The entire column is empty. So let's delete that. And if you look at row 15 here, the entire row is also empty except for tabulation of the total. And this is quite meaningless. So let's delete that as well. The next thing that you want to do is to avoid having any totals or subtotals in your data set. This is because this data may duplicate and confound or confuse the information that you get from the pivot tables later on. So best not to have this. Let's delete this. And this is probably the most important thing before you set up the pivot table is to ensure that your columns have column headers. This is very important. I will explain to you, I'll illustrate this to you later once we have set up the pivot table. So over here, our data looks fine. Let's have a quick look. It looks okay. And once you are ready, all you need to do is hit the Insert tab and you will find pivot table here. Hit that and this dialog box will pop up. Let me quickly explain to you what this means. Basically, what Excel is doing quite cleverly actually is to reference cell B8 all the way to H29, right? This is fine. This is the range. This is fine if you are sure, right? If you are sure that you are not going to add any more data uh, into your data set. But if you know that there are going to be updates later on, then perhaps this is not the best thing to do. Let's hit cancel. What you probably want to do first is to convert this data into a table, right? So there are a few ways to do this. The first way is to hit the home button and you have this format as a table button here, so you can click on this. The second way is to hit the Insert tab and you have a table here. You can also do this, or you can hit Control, the shortcut key is Control plus T, Control T. So I'm going to choose the first one on the home button and I'm going to format the table. So there are a couple of formats you can choose. So I'm going to choose one of this. Ensure that your table has a header. This is checked and you hit OK, right? The next thing to do is to rename your table, give it a meaningful name. So I'm going to call this sales quarter 2021. Okay. So now what you have done is if there are additions to your data, the pivot table will recognize this later on when you hit the refresh button. All right. So we have done this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop here and I will come back in the next video to share with you how you would set the pivot table up. All right. So right now, what we have done is we have successfully prepared and set up our table for the next step. So I'll see you in the next video, everyone. Bye-bye.